Good morning. A filthy day today. More floods and storms coming into from the southwest. I hope you can hear me above the rain battering my Velux windows. I've turned my radio down, but I still want to listen to it from bits because it's news. Now I've been painted a couple of flood pictures, Surrey and Kent, the River Medway and the Mole Valley. The Mole Valley is a wonderful, beautiful place in the Surrey Hills, the other side of Dorking, Reigate, and this lovely river with stepping stones on it. It's above it looms Box Hill, and it's a lovely area to paint. But the mole has been bursting its banks. Now, an area that's going to take a lot of flooding is Somerset Levels, so named because it's level, flat and low-lying. And I took this photograph. These are pre-digital, so I can't show you them on the computer because they're not on there. And in this particular area, there's a beautiful hill with a tower on the top in the vicinity of Glastonbury, which you all know is a pop centre or music centre, yearly thing. But there's a lot of myths surrounding this area, and it's a beautiful area to paint flat. But I've, as you can see, I've guessed it, somewhere in my photograph drawer, is a picture of Glastonbury in the Somerset Levels. But here's one I did similar area years ago. It's a little oil painting. I sold this at a gallery, Sackville Gallery in South Croydon. Sadly, he's shut. He's framing across the road. The lease ran out on the gallery, and he sold a lot of paintings for me. I'm very grateful to him. But this is a similar area, bisected by that tree. I've masked out the owner of this picture, so I asked him to take a photograph of it. So I'm going to just invent a view of Glastonbury. It doesn't exist. There's this little folly on the top. It's a sort of a church. It's quite small because the hill is quite big, and there are paths up to it. And it's quite a few hearts a bit digging. It's quite a tough climb. But anyway, I'm going to paint this flat landscape with some trees here coming up out of the levels, and a larger tree here. It was actually it looked like a sort of pine tree. But I'll just invent the landscape. I'm going to do wet in wet. I'll just pin it up on here so I can see it. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just using that as for the distance really. The view itself doesn't really exist. The paints I'm using are 21 millilitre tubes of Cotsman watercolour. I ordered them, whoever's the cheapest on eBay. I've just ordered a couple of burnt sienna, which I love, and I'm getting a bit low on that. Burnt sienna, burnt umber. I don't use such a lot of that. But the burnt sienna, I'm stocking up on that because I use it a lot. Oh, that's the light. Oh, there's a burnt sienna. Started to use that tube. And I've got them from Craft Scene at discount. And the two that I've just ordered, they're £3.19 including postage, so get in quick. On eBay, it's The Doll's House, thedollshouse.com, The Doll's House. They seem to be the cheapest. In the shops, these are about over five quid now. They're student quality, they're more than good enough for what we do. Some of the colours are super saturated, like the light red and the alizarin. So handle those with care. My palette is lemon yellow, raw sienna, alizarin crimson, light red, ultramarine, burnt umber, Payne's grey, which is a good mixer with the burnt sienna, which is there, and the and burnt umber and the blue. It's but not used straight out of the tube. It does have a deadening effect, but I mixed the light red largely with the ultramarine to make my cloud shadows, or my clouds. But it's also a lovely colour to use in the sky, but used very, very dilute because it's very, very strong, but it goes pink. And it warms up a sky rather than cold colours, but here I'm always influenced by what I'm looking at through my windows, through the skies. So many people walk along in this weather looking down at their feet, but us artists, we look up to see the light in the sky, see where it is, the effect it has between the clouds. And we try to put it on paper. A friend of mine's just lent me a book by the critic Brian Sewell, who I do like. I value what he says. He doesn't think much of modern art, but he has his opinions. He was a friend of Dali, and he reckoned that Salvador Dali, was the last of the greats. Since then, no great figurative representational painters doing landscape maybe. But I remember going to the Dali Museum in St. Petersburg in Florida, and it was an eye-opener. It was an absolutely fantastic museum of many of his works. I think he left a lot of the works to the St. Pete's Museum. It has moved, but you look at his paintings, the large paintings, and you think, well, yeah, very clever, so what? But when you look in a certain way, you start to see presidents of the United States coming out of the tiles in the bathroom. Incredible. But he used to starve himself for weeks and deprive himself of sleep till he hallucinated. That gives you an idea of what he actually experienced in his mind's eye. I haven't got that imagination, nor have I starved myself to do this. I've got the lights on up here because it's so dull outside. There's no good natural light. So I'm wetting the paper all over. This is Fabriano. Fabriano, £130 from Art Discount. It's a good paper. It comes in blocks of 100 sheets and it's very economical. I don't like it for anything other than the wet in wet. So let's put a bit of, having talked about it, let's just put a blush of red in this landscape. Look, and you can, what you put in the sky, put in the water. This is going to be a floodplain, and it is prone to a lot of flooding from time to time. Right, so I'm mixing up with some light red and ultramarine to go across this sky. Put that in across the levels. And a bit heavier. A good way of making greys for your sky is alizarin crimson and Payne's grey. But I quite like using these colours. When I'm working flat on the Bockingford paper, well not flat but 35 degrees, the blue and the red have this create this marvellous effect of granulation. The paint tends to separate and creates a texture. You couldn't do it if you tried, but it's just, you can just see it starting to happen on the palette. But if I let that dry, it would separate, and it's a lovely effect. The one I did a few days ago, I think that was the Medway. Excuse me. I put a lovely red. It was a sunrise. I was looking out of my loft window, no, my bedroom window, and I could see this lovely sunrise about 7:30 in the morning. No such luck today. And I thought I'll put that in as my basic sky colour, and it looked great. But now I look at it, when I photographed it, gravity had made the red in the sky slip down to this area. But it's a happy accident. It looks good, but I couldn't have planned for it. So, right, let's put in some background. I'm going to just dry that off a little bit. I had to angle my easel towards the overhead light. I'm just taking the shine off the paper, I'm not drying it to brittle. Now, distance, put the background in. Using the hake, I will revert, I think, to the other brushes, my new. Alright, let's just put in some green on there. But what detail there is will be lost in this. All the way across, let's just put in some undulations on the top here, just so it doesn't look too monotonous. Right, now I'll go along with some harder greens. It was a very cold day when we went there. It was years ago. And it was in March, I think. And it was cold, there was still some snow about. But it's a lovely, lovely place. But I just love landscape. I was looking at a book this morning, a friend showed me, by the son of Tim Yeo, a Tory minister, and he does the most fantastic portraits. Marvellous stuff. And my friend, who's not an artist but got interested in his drawing, showed me some of his pencil drawings, which are quite astounding, because he's painting or drawing what he's looking at rather than what he thinks he's looking at. He's learned the trick quite naturally. Although I did lend him a book some years ago called Drawing with the Right Side of the Brain. Bit of a classic now. Let's make just some dark. Let me rig it just because it's so far away, no, that's not really working rigger. Oh, that's a bit of a hard. I'll use this my almost new sable mix. They're good. I'm going to probably buy this number 16 or even bigger. They came from Recad brushes, and they're a pretty good price. So sorry if I mask this. I'll put it on there. My drawer, my easel. Let's just come across it. Just put some detail in. Just poking up. And I want the hill as it's disappearing into the murk, which is okay. But I didn't want all the paint to bleed into the sky. That's why I dried it. Oh, you could just come along there, creating detail with the minimum of effort. Nothing drawn. Just bunging. Light red, ultramarine and lemon yellow is a good dark green, rather than the burnt sienna. And that's going to be behind the tree there. So I'll try and put in with a minimum of effort. Put some walls in there. Try to vary the heights of these things, otherwise it'll look like a regiment peering over the parapet. Look, I'm mixing the light red, quite hard paint, well, thick paint, it's softened, and that will just go into this, into the slightly wet underpainting. Using these brushes takes time, but I've got about 90 odd sheets of the Fabriano left, but I do like the bucking for it, I must say. I love the way you can dry brush with it. It's a bit difficult with this. Right, let's just get that a bit straight on there. Right, okay, that's going up here, we'll change that. Right, okay. Going back to the hike now, because I want to fill this landscape, the foreground with oh, I've got my brush now. It's a brush hold, good brush hold in mine now. I really think I need some slightly darker stuff in there, just to show a bit more perspective than I have shown. So let's just put in a bit of bluey green, bit of sienna. I hope that dries in a little bit, it's just a little bit strong. Oh, it's a wet bit. That gives you a bit of yeah, that'll do. I can put a bit some harder back on the stripe. Right now, we've got the sky. So now the red that I put in there to warm it up is almost vanished, but I'll clean my palette off again. I don't want that to interfere with my water. I'm going to do this quite quickly now. So we'll put in some blue and red. Put it in very quickly, slightly dry brushed. Oops. Don't prepare for that, got to be a bit drier. Got my hake in my mouth now. Right. Now we'll go a bit greener. Bit of grey in with that. I'll put brushy foreground in there. Alright, that's that. Now I'm going to put some darker grey, darker grey in there, because that is reflecting the sky. We're in here. Right. So we've got that cloud up there, so we'll show that reflecting in here. Right, okay. I'll give that a dry. Right, now I'm going to put in some detail on this. So I want some dark, greeny, warm dark greens. Water on the palette. Right. Yellow, blue. Okay. So. More blue in there. I'm going to use the rigger on this in a minute, but I want to get these dark greens in. Just showing the fields, just poking through. Just creating an impression of the undulations in the flat landscape, slightly flat landscape, just poking through. But we're trying to make it look a bit random, a bit too even there, but I'm going to strengthen some and weaken others. And we can show some of this. Very difficult to do this in any other way really. Some dry brushing with separate hairs on the brush. A bit more yellow. Right, okay. That'll do for the rigger for the moment. I'll go back to the rigger now and paint into that, nice and dark greens. My tree's going to stick up out of this. Oh, lovely. I'll show you the reflections coming out of that. Oh, it's a foul day. And we'll strengthen these up as we come down to the horizon, to the foreground. Let's get some bigger ones, clumps. I love doing this. It's just alright. Got some nice green in there now. Try to show floods. Without painting every blade of grass. Now we can get some darker in there now, more darks. Same colours. Paint's getting lovely and sticky now, so I can. This is good fun. I intend to try to do that, but still need some wet. Maybe my rigger's wearing out. It's slightly warmer now. Good. Warm colours come forward and blue colours cool over seed. I can put the tree reflection in there, so greeny tree, so the tree is just sticking out of that clump, so we can There are not a lot of big trees here that I can recall. They're more stunted. But we can put in whatever trees we want, can't we? Bit of Payne's grey now with the burnt sienna. With the rigger you can get a very thick line if you flatten it and paint with the sort of back of it. It's a great brush to use, provided you use all of it rather than just the tip. I use more of this now than the tip of it, so this is just a bit of a higher spot coming across there. I will dry brush some leaves. It wasn't really spring when we were there, but really it's winter now, and I should be painting winter. Yeah, of course, sure. This is winter because we've got all this rain. Why did I do that? Right, let's put a bit of ivy on there. I'll darken over that. Lots of little spiky stuff coming off of that. Right. Drag that down there. Right, that one coming in there. That'll do for that, I think. For the moment, I'll put some meat on the bones in a minute when that dried off a bit. Strengthen up some of this. This is just a burnt sienna and the Payne's grey. It's beginning to make a bit of sense now. Probably too many of those in, but we'll come up with this this other tree here now. So get my nice dark bits in. It's going to be a bigger one to balance that. Some nice darks here, shadow darks. Oh, there's my dark mix, my sienna, in with the grey. into the grey. Yeah, I'm just dragging, putting above, and I'm just showing a reflection of it. That seems to make it come alive. Well, I think it does anyway. Right, now we'll put that tree in. I think we'll use I'll use the hake for that. So my dark, burnt sienna, bit of grey, fairly dry. I'll put that in there, over here. Looking a bit too round in that. Dry it off. I want to keep away from the Glastonbury. It needs a bit of a tip on it. No, well, no, that's okay. I think it was sharp, just a bit, yeah, just sharp. I'll go back to the rigger. And we're going right off the top. I've run out of the sienna because I use it so much. It's my favourite colour in oil painting. I mix it with ultramarine for my darks, warm darks. I don't use Payne's grey in oils, I use black. But you use whatever gives you the effect that you want. There are no rules, other than good technique. With watercolour you start light and you work dark. With oils you can work both ways. But one rule in oil, if you do, and I'm sure you know it, is you paint from lean to fat. In other words, you don't put thin paint over thick paint that hasn't dried. Fresh winds through the afternoon. Oh, it's quite mild. Right, let's let's put in some ivy. There. Nice stunted sort of tree. a lot of people seem to make it their life's work to pull ivy off of trees. But as far as I know, ivy just uses the tree as a support for itself. It doesn't compete with the tree. But I might be wrong. Okay, that's looking alright. Starting to take a bit longer than I would hoped now. I'll probably do one tomorrow morning, being New Year's Day. So let's put in the reflection now. Oh, just adding the reflections. This is stronger than that, and that is stronger than that, and that is stronger than that. But I need to just do that. Faint reflection. Just filling in the back here, just adding the reflections in those distant. Green, just going to glue that. Never mind. Let's put in some nice warm. Now, using my number 10, I'll put on some leaves on there. It's just spring. darker here and there. Just dry brush it. It did work on the paper there. No, not a lot of colour. Maybe we can just put in a bit of colour in here, just a sienna. Bit of yellow in it. Just warm it up a little. Just mixing a bit of lemon yellow with the sienna. Right, I'm going to let that go. I'm going to put it in a mount. Sign it. Painting, the photograph was very bright and sunny, but I'm only really painting this sort of feeling from what I'm looking at from my window. Let's just keep that there. Alright, let's go. Oops. Hold on, let's just take it down a little bit. Right, that's better. Right, okay. Let's have a look at it. So this is the Somerset Levels, Glastonbury. We call it Glastonbury. Glastonbury in the flooded Somerset Levels. Somerset Levels, Glastonbury stroke. I'll think of a title, but it's Glastonbury. Across the Somerset Levels which have been flooded. I'm sure they have been flooded, I'm probably making it up, but hey ho. Let's zoom in. There's the Glastonbury in the murk. There's my little tree with all the ivy on it. Counterbalancing that one, which is smaller, further back. And just my wintry flooded grassland. I hope you've enjoyed that. It's as good as I can get it. Thanks for watching. If I don't see you tomorrow, Happy New Year to all. Bye.